Welcome. In this video, we will cover Part 2 of Chapter 18 on drugs. In 1900, infectious disease was the leading cause of death. Influenza, pneumonia, tuberculosis. Now, we have heart disease and cancer as the leading causes of death, with infectious disease significantly lower. This is due to a significant boom in antibacterial drugs and discoveries. Antibacterial drugs are used to treat infectious diseases. Sulfa drugs were the first class of antibacterial drugs. Sulfanilamide acts by replacing para-aminobenzoic acid, which bacteria need to manufacture folic acid and thrive. Another class of antibacterial drugs are the penicillins. These drugs are derived from molds or bacteria and are soluble substances that interfere with the growth of other microorganisms. Penicillins work by inhibiting the enzymes that bacteria use to make their cell walls. Cephalosporins are another class of antibacterial drugs. Bacteria, over time, develop resistance to certain antibiotics. Each time a bacteria becomes resistant to an antibiotic, a new antibacterial drug class needs to be developed in order to replace the antibacteria. Penicillins have been partially replaced by cephalosporins. Viruses are composed of nucleic acids and proteins, and viral diseases cannot be treated with antibiotics. The material found within a virus is genetic material that's either DNA or RNA. DNA viruses enter the host cell, where their DNA is replicated, and direct the production of viral proteins for the new virus that invade other host cells and continue the process. These are invasive. RNA viruses enter the host cell and induce the synthesis of new proteins. Some RNA viruses are retroviruses, which synthesize new DNA in the host cell. HIV is one example of a retrovirus. Antiviral drugs have been developed which are effective against some viruses but do not provide cures. These will reduce the production of the virus within the cells, in some cases completely eliminate the production. Hormones are a class of chemical messengers that are produced in the endocrine glands. These chemical messengers control a lot of the function within your body. There are over 20 natural and most common hormones. Here are an example of a few of them. Oxytocin stimulates the contraction of smooth muscle in the uterus, stimulating the secretion of milk. Growth hormone stimulates body growth and bone growth. Follicle-stimulating hormone stimulates maturation of egg follicles and ovaries of females and of sperm cells in the testes of males. As you can see, the list continues, including many important molecules like insulin, glucagon, cortisol, estradiol, testosterone, etc. These hormones are necessary for regulating all of the functions within the body. An imbalance of hormones can lead to negative effects and cause disease-like states within the body. Prostaglandins are hormone-like lipids derived from fatty acids. These act similar to hormones, but they target cells that are local to their production. Steroids are lipids with a definitive four-ring structure, as seen in this molecule here, cholesterol. This is a type of hormone structure. Some of the steroids are illegally used to enhance athletic performance, and some are used to treat states like arthritis, asthma, dermatitis, and eye infections. Psychotropic drugs are a class of drugs that affect the human mind. These can fall into three categories. Stimulants, which increase alertness, speed of mental processes, and elevate elevate moods. These include drugs like cocaine and amphetamines. Depressants, which reduce consciousness and reaction to stimuli. These include alcohol, opiates, anesthetics, barbiturates, and tranquilizers. And then finally, hallucinogenics. These include LSD and marijuana and alter the way that we perceive reality. The human nervous system is made up of 12 billion neurons. On the right, we have the general structure of a neuron. We start out with the cell body in the top, which is then connected to an axon, a long tube surrounded in a myelin, which acts as an insulator, and then at the end we have these little nerve endings. This are called synapses and are going to send a chemical signal to the next cell. The chemical signal occurs in the form of a neurotransmitter. One cell reduces small amounts or large amounts of the neurotransmitter, and that leaves the cell, and then receptors on the next cell will read these chemical signals and then elicit a response within that cell. Anesthetics are general substances that can cause a lack of feeling and awareness. General anesthetics produce unconsciousness and block feelings of pain. Local anesthetics block feeling of pain in a specific part of the body. These drugs are often used during surgery in order to reduce the amount of pain a patient feels, as well as allow doctors access to an area without a conscious person. Here is a list of commonly used local anesthetics. You can note that many of these have the "cane" suffix in their name. That's because a lot of these drugs have structures very similar to cocaine and are derivatives. The duration of action for these drugs is different, and they can be applied based off of the surgery needed for the anesthetic use. Modern anesthetics include a variety of drugs, such as orally administered drugs, painkillers and narcotics, inhalant anesthetics to keep people unconscious, or oral and injected muscle relaxants. If we look at the structure of common local anesthetics, we'll notice that most of them contain this benzene ring and this amine group. Barbiturates are a family of related depressants that were once used as mild sedatives. In larger doses, they can induce sleep, but they are also very toxic. Both alcohol and barbiturates are classified as depressants. Taken together, they can cause a synergistic effect. For example, the effect of barbiturates is enhanced over 200. The next class of drugs that we will look at are anti-anxiety drugs. These are drugs which have been used to relieve the stress of modern living and fall into a class and include the class called benzodiazepines, which are thought to act on the GABA receptors and are extremely addictive. Some of the more common benzodiazepines include diazepam, clonazepam, and lorazepam. Some anti-anxiety drugs are used to treat depression. The most common category of antidepressants are SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Serotonin acts as both a hormone and a neurotransmitter. Its prolonged effect is often linked to feelings of happiness. SSRIs are used to enhance the effect of serotonin by blocking its reabsorption by nerve cells. It increases the longevity of serotonin after it's been released by a neuron. Stimulant drugs are one of the most commonly used drugs in society. Over time, they've been used for a variety of different functions. They're used to treat depression and narcolepsy, but they also increase pulse rate and blood pressure. They induce excitability, restlessness, and at one time they were used as a diet drug. They were also used as a stimulant during times of war to increase the attention and effectiveness of soldiers. Cocaine is a powerful stimulant derived from the cocoa plant. It acts by preventing the reabsorption of dopamine, leaving high levels of dopamine in the brain, and stimulates the pleasure centers of the brain. The effect of cocaine is short-lived, and it's then followed by a rapid depression and craving for more. Caffeine is the most popular stimulant in the world. It's found in energy drinks, coffee, and tea. In Table 18.5, we can see the amount of caffeine in milligrams in a 12-ounce serving of most soft drinks. An effective dose of caffeine is about 200 milligrams. The effects of a stimulant like caffeine are much more mild than those of amphetamine or cocaine. Nicotine is another commonly used stimulant. It's absorbed by smoking or chewing tobacco, and the initial stimulant response is followed by depression. The final class of drugs that we will look at are the psychedelic drugs. These drugs will cause a modified awareness by the individual. Some of these drugs are synthetic and some of them are natural. Lysergic acid diethylamide, or LSD, is a semi-synthetic drug which is a powerful psychedelic drug. Psilocybin is a psychedelic alkaloid that can be found in several mushrooms and has effects similar to those of LSD. Mescaline is a psychedelic drug that's found in cactus, which has effects that last up to 12 hours. One of the most commonly used psychedelic drugs, marijuana, is prepared from the leaves, flowers, seeds, and stems of the cannabis sativa plant. There are many different cannabinoids, or the natural products within marijuana, which causes the psychedelic effects, but the most common one is tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC.